This is Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle.
Welcome back to Inside the Wolf's Den with your hosts, Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle. Hey, Shawn.
Hey. How's your week going?
It's awesome. How's yours?
It's been fantastic. Thank you.
So why has it been fantastic? Tell us why.
It's been a good week. Got a lot accomplished. It's been a lot in the world going on, and nervous people, I think, with interest rates and everything that's going on. And so we've had great discussions with clients, and still encourage them. That's still a great time to buy, and walking them through that. And we've had some good growth in the property management space. So we've took on some larger complexes, which is exciting, and we're managing some larger multifamily projects, which is exciting for us to grow that space for us.
It is. And what's kind of cool is that we kind of put this focus on it, right? We're at the beginning of the year, we say we're going to, kind of shoot for more multifamily, and we focus on that, and look.
Yeah. So. Careful what you focus on, because
it's a little focus.
It leads to some big things.
Yeah.
But maybe there's a whole nother podcast in that about focus. But tell us about today.
Well, let's go back a little bit last week. If you didn't tune in, we talked about pivoting or as you would say, adapting during challenging times. So if you guys didn't listen into that episode, highly recommend that you do. I've got a lot of great feedback from that. And so, but this week we're going to be talking about being financially independent. So I thought we'd start off with the definition of that, right? So financial independence is a status of having enough income or wealth sufficient to pay one's living expense for the rest of one's life without having to be employed or dependent on other incomes earned without having to work a job, which is commonly referred to as passive income. Yeah.
Yes, and so today's going to be more, I feel like more of a discussion, and we would love your guys' feedback, our listeners, and just what you guys are working towards and what your definition and maybe some of your goals, and we'd love to get your feedback and hear from you. So, it's always this, I think in our space in the real estate investing world, you hear a lot about being financially independent. And people, it's a big goal for a lot of people and something they're chasing and the visions. And to me, I get the financially independent part. I get, building up enough passive income to support your living expenses. The problem with a lot of that is that, things are going to change, right? And so we're going through that right now. And inflation, like right now we're really high inflation. So guess what? Everything is more expensive. Everything, get down to your eggs and your milk and everything. So if you have a fixed income or built enough passive income, and you go through a time like now, well, is it going to be enough? Are you going to have enough passive income to truly live on? Or is the rent and everything else going to increase? So, we looked at, for this episode, we looked at our portfolio, right? We built a rental portfolio over the last 20 years.
Yeah.
We've added properties over the years. We sold a bunch recently in the last couple of years because, things have increased. But we've aggressively paid down our debts and against that portfolio and built up our cash flow. But, if you look at it, our insurance rates have especially since the last that freeze, we've had a lot of our insurance rates increase.
Property taxes
because of the massive appreciation we've had.
Right.
Property taxes. So it's eating into our cash flow. Rents quite haven't kept up, or in most cases, rents are usually delayed. So, you have this massive run up in appreciation and growth like we've had. Rents do increase, but it takes time because number one, they're under a lease. You got to wait till the renewal. And rent increases, happen over time. So they're usually a couple of years behind. And so if you looked at our portfolio ourselves, if we tried, to retire or retired a couple of years ago off of this, we might, right now be saying, hey, maybe not be enough. Now, our wealth has definitely increased if those properties have really, really grown in appreciation and growth. So yes, as you and I on paper, we've gotten wealthier, but
Yeah.
I wouldn't say our cash flow has increased a lot. So
I would agree with that. But I mean, I think you have to start off with a goal, and you have to start off with a plan. And, you know, this has evolved over 20 years, right? And it might have not pan out as we would have thought it would. But I think it starts, you asked me earlier, like, is it realistic? Yeah, and I think that it is. I mean, we have to start somewhere, right? It might change over the course of your business, and but I think it is realistic
to be financially independent.
Yeah.
Even though, and so I went back and I said, really, to be realistic, or to build something that you're going to be maybe retire on. And the premise behind this whole thing is that you're retiring before the retirement age. That's really the difference. So there's retirement, and then there's being financially independent. Usually financial independence is a lot younger than the retirement age.
Yeah.
And it's something, yeah, like you said, you got to have goals and visions and all that. And I think if you look back in our 20s, we really, that was our goal, right?
Yeah, I mean, I remember at 19 years old, we had this dream and I wanted to retire at 45. Yeah. Time is ticking. So and I look back, I'm like, what would I do at 45, right? I mean, I think it's too young, right? Yeah. So that's not realistic probably, but like, that's part of it, is like having that dream, having that passion. I think a lot of times, like, we let that go. Like, I know that for us personally, we have, like, we've added more things, and, we've just got drained and overwhelmed. And at some point a couple of years ago, we lost that dream and passion, right? And so how do you keep that back? Because I think you always have to have that to continue on with your goals, to get to where you want to be.
Yeah. And I think that's really what the premise behind this show is, like, being financially independent. Yes, there's a financial aspect of it that we're talking about, but really, what when people are saying they really want it, why do they? You got to look at the why, right? And you got to look at
always
why,
comes down to your why.
Yeah, why are you trying to be financially independent? And if you really look at the reason why, or what they're chasing, it's not really the financial aspect of it. It's more to be about the freedom and the time, and that's really what it comes back to for most people, because they want to be able to do what they want, when they want, and within moderation. It's not like they're going to be able to go buy private planes and do all that usually when they're unless they're super wealthy or super financially independent. But for the most part, it's about building, being able to do what you want when you want, and not being dictated to your boss, or having to show up at a job, or and it's more about developing your life, or your vision for your life, or your vision around your life. And so that's you had something about why I know you.
Yeah, you were talking about, building all this rental portfolio. And I think at one time we thought, like, hey, like, we want 100 houses, right? Like, why do we want 100 houses? Like, what's the point of having 100 houses? Now it's just a headache, right? To pay all these property taxes and, collect all these tenants' rents. And so we're like, well, what the hell? We can just decrease that to 50, have 50 free and clear houses and be in the same position, right?
Yeah.
So
it's not
necessarily more is better.
Correct. And it's about, again, so what we want to get to is, and discuss in the show, is about, it's more about defining the way you want to live and the vision for what you're trying to build. And so it's more about, what kind of lifestyle do you want to have? What kind of home do you want to live in? Where do you want to live in? Do you want to be free? And I know people that have built their vision where they don't want to be held to one location. So they want probably no kids, not pets. They want to be able to get up and go tomorrow. They want to be able to live in different places. But in the last couple of years, I know of several people that have just they don't even have a personal residence. They just go from, like, Airbnb from month to month to different places in the country, and they can operate, and their business can operate that way. And so,
one question. So I think a lot of people struggle with how to define, like, how you want to live your life. Like, and I think I wanted to kind of ask you this, because I know that a couple of years back, like, we've accomplished all that we wanted to accomplish, all the visions that we've set for ourselves, we've accomplished that, right? And then at one point you were like, shoot, like, what's my next, right? Like, and you were kind of going through that, like, defining kind of how you wanted to live your life, if you remember that. How did you finally come to walk us through this? I want to, because I think
you want me to get vulnerable.
I do, but I think at the same time, I think a lot of people struggle with that.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was because I'm a big dreamer and a visionary, and I love to, like, I can passionately envision things, and I get so much, there's so much emotion behind it, and it drives me. But yeah, you get to a point where it's like, okay, I've got the amount of rentals we wanted, got the income, got, a lot of the things that family and things that we had visioned, for years. And it took a lot longer than I originally wanted it to, but I got there. But then I was like, okay, what's next? It was always like increasing that, and increasing the number, increasing the amount of deals we do, increasing the amount of rentals. But then it became why? And we had a mentor at that time, and
he would ask us that
question. He questioned like why,
why does it have to be 100 houses?
Yeah, so I was like, we'd go over our goals and kind of what we're trying to do for next year, and be like, why? And not that he was challenging, like it was not beneficial or it was not a good goal or anything like that. It was more just like, what's the reason behind it? What's the why behind it? What's that going to get you? And so that's the big thing, is like, okay, you increase your income this much, or you increase your wealth this much. Okay, what's that going to buy for you? If it ain't going to change anything, then that maybe is not the goal you should be having.
Right.
So I had to just find that. And for me, it was more about, rather than focusing on myself, it was more about focusing on others. And so it came back to me about my reason why, and why I stayed and keep building and keep doing stuff, was more for helping others and more leaving an
making
impact.
an impact.
Yeah. So like, to me, it was came about like our clients and the people we sell homes to and manage for. It was about them. It was about helping them build their retirement and their wealth through an investment vehicle that I've known now for 22 years, which is real estate. So like showing them how, helping them, assisting them, providing quality building and being riding alongside them in these neighborhoods and investing with them. And that became more the passion.
Right.
And then it became about the fund and helping people that way with their, again, retirement and places they could place their money and we could put it to work, but at the same time, it helps them, earn. We have people that just live off the interest, and that's what they, and so I'm helping people that way. It became about the vendors that we serve and that utilize in our businesses. That's a lot of mouths to feed. That's a lot of if you think about all the construction, the millions of dollars that we do in maintenance and construction a year, that's feeding a lot of people, helping a lot of people. And it came to our staff and our employees and our remote team members, and it came about serving them and helping them with education and their passions, their dreams, helping them realize, meeting their investment goals and teaching them how they can invest. And a lot of the start off was just helping them buy their own personal residence. So it became their personal home. That was just their first step, and that home ownership
led into now them investing in real estate.
Correct. So that came more the impact.
And I think that right there was game changer. Like once you figured that out, like, it's not about us. It's not about ourselves. It's about how you're going to make an impact in this world. And so that's, I think, what you should start looking at when you're trying to put a vision for your life, right? Like, how are you going to make an impact in this world? Right.
Yeah. And yes, initially it starts with yourself. I don't think there's nothing wrong with that. There's got to be we're all chasing something to benefit our own families and ourselves and growing. But eventually it becomes like, hey, how can I leave a bigger impact on the people I serve or the people around me? And then there's bigger, I think you've been able to touch people that you, through your book and through some of your speaking engagement and stuff like that, it's been more like, hey, I'm going to help people outside my sphere of influence, not just the people around me, but also people that I don't even know.
Absolutely.
And so you've taken it to another level, but yeah, that goes back to the why and the vision and really, I think, and maybe you could say that, so that to us, it became financially independent was not so much, yes, we wanted to make sure our bills and our living expenses were taken care of, but it became more just the freedom to be able to do things that we want to serve other people.
Right.
And so that's kind of where we were going with this whole conversation. But, to define that, I think you really have to define like where you want in life. And that's something that you and I had to do. Like, it was like, well, we have a family. Like, so even though we would love to live abroad, maybe part of the time, like it's not realistic in our...
Eventually, and it might change as the kids get older, but...
Right now, we have to be in Houston, Texas. Our kids are very active in school and sports and stuff. So there's stuff and we choose to do that. But you have to decide that. And we have some very good friends that, are choosing to homeschool their children
so
because
they can travel.
So they love to spend a couple months overseas or different countries. And so in order to do that, they have to homeschool their kids. And so you have to define those things that you want, where you want to live, how much time you want to take off, and how much you want to travel, and what it's going to take to afford that.
Right.
And there's different ways you can cut costs or do things to afford those. And sometimes, like, we've had great friends and masterminds we've been a part of where, to be able to build their vision and all that, they don't even own their own home. They don't have no desire to.
Yeah.
They might own rentals, but they want the freedom and flexibility. And so that's where we're getting, is like, you really define that, and then you build everything around that to serve that vision. So meaning you might take a job, that you can work remote, because you want to be able to travel and work and be able to do that. So they don't care where you are in the world. They just, as long as you report a certain time, or you complete your task. It might be building a business and starting a business that you have that flexibility and freedom to do that.
Yep.
It could be, like we said, homeschooling your kids. It could be, but really setting aside, like, okay, how much income am I going to have to build, or how much income either passively or part-time on side of my job in order for me to support the vision I want for my life. So
it starts somewhere. I think, for a lot of us, it's like, okay, where do I start, right? And you got to start. Make a plan, whether it's your personal finances, budgeting, start with that first.
Yeah. And we've had good success. If you listen to episode 112, the one Joni mentioned earlier in the podcast, was, we went over some of our personal buckets, obviously a savings, a business bucket, and an investment bucket is where our money gets channeled to. And we broke it down and went into that. But then as far as investments, we have a little bit more diversification so that it helps us. So we're not dependent upon one source of income, for our passive income. And when we've chose to invest in, obviously the real estate is a big section for us. And then we do a lot of loans, and then we do businesses. We invest in businesses, and then we invest in the stock market.
I think it's important to diversify, right? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. Like, I remember good example I give you with your parents, they used to be heavily invested in the stock market. And for years you kept telling them, take some of that out, put it into real estate. And I think they were kind of fearful of that because they didn't have any idea, how to even go about that. And so, but once they did it, I mean, man, like now they're, got several free and clear rentals that's, building their paying for retirement. And so
hopefully they never need that money and it's just there, but it's at least something. And it's more work, I think, on their part. So some of these are going to require, and that's something you got to factor in too, like their investments, even though they're not managing them, our company's managing their rental portfolio, they're still, like, you had to make the approval sometimes on tenants, or you had to approve a large maintenance expense. They're not used to those kind of questions, because you put it in the stock market, you just sit it and park it, and you talk to your investment broker a couple times a year. But so there's a little bit more in time. So, like, you have to, if your vision says I'm going to be off the grid for 12 months, your investment's got to support that as well.
Well, and I think that's important to have a team backing you up, that can do that, because that's absolutely what I love about our company is that, like, we kind of treat it as Charles Schwab approach to real estate investing, right? Like, we're kind of helping our clients along the way. They might not know. We work with a lot of professionals, and they don't have the time to be looking at that. And so we have to guide them, and they have to trust us that we're making the right decisions for them.
Yeah. So I hope that was beneficial. I hope we probably didn't answer. You probably saw being financially independent, and you're like, how am I going to do that quickly? But I mean, we just wanted to, again, this was a discussion.
Yeah. And I think you have, if you're looking at defining how you want to live your life, you really have to plan it out with your family, sit down, whiteboard it out, right? And then also maybe get involved in some masterminds. I know that there was one that we took, Life on Air. I don't even know if it's still, I think it's still around, but that was eye-opening for us.
Yeah. Life on Air, if you're in the real estate, Collective Genius is a great mastermind.
Just getting involved with like-minded people that are, having the same vision, and they want to move to the same place. So.
Correct. So hope that was helpful. We love your feedback on it. We love to hear your stories about how you are building your own financially independent lifestyle. And so we'd love to hear more about that. So please share your comments, notes, email us at info@insidethewolfsden.com. And otherwise, I hope you guys have a fantastic week, and we'll see you all next week.
See ya, everyone.
You've been listening to Inside the Wolf's Den, an entrepreneurial journey with Shawn and Joni Wolfswinkle. Tons of entrepreneurial podcasts are out there. Talking. But Joni and Shawn are living it every single day. Their portfolio now includes many franchises and medium-sized businesses. We talk about the trials and motivators of successfully running a business. Join us again soon for another podcast. But until then, reach out on the website at InsideTheWolf'sDen.com, on Facebook at Inside the Wolf's Den, on Instagram at Inside the Wolf Den. We'll see you again soon. This is Inside the Wolf's Den. We'll see you next time.